Mhm.
Right. Hi, ladies. So I am here with one of my previous mastermind clients, and we're going to be talking about how she found her perfect guy, got into a committed relationship with him during the program, like very quickly into the program. So we're going to dive into what happened and how she did that. So, hi, Lisa. Thanks for being here with me and being willing to share your story and your experience. So I just want to start out by having you introduce yourself. So if you could tell us a little bit about you, like where you're from, how old you are, and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I live in New York City, originally from Toronto, but I've been in NYC for like 10 years. 31 years old, and I've worked in the professional field, ever since I graduated college. Right now, I'm the director of live ops at a video game company, which I've been at for like about 6 years. Previous to that, I worked in finance and investment banking. So, been just a very career-driven woman my entire life.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like most of the women who come to work with me. So I asked you to do this interview because I think the women in my audience will relate to where you are and what your experiences with men had been like before coming into the mastermind, and just how that's completely changed when you met your boyfriend. It can just be really helpful to hear like what's possible. So I want to start by just asking, what had been your dating and relationship experience before joining the program? Just tell us a little bit about what it was like for you before coming into it.
Sure. Historically, my dating experience has spanned, just about 10 years, I guess. My first relationship was a really, really long relationship that I entered into when I was like 21 years old. I guess the theme of like I've only ever been in two relationships, but the theme of my last relationships was that it was both with emotionally unavailable men who had real trouble kind of being vulnerable and sharing their feelings, had trouble kind of hearing out my concerns and responding to my concerns in an emotionally safe way. And although one relationship got better than the other, as I progressed, it felt like I was in relationships where I was kind of walking on eggshells, being very uncertain about whether or not this man is committed to me, whether or not he wants to stay with me, feeling like I'm anxiously attached just because we haven't established a lot of like emotional safety in our relationship. There's a lot of like hiding how we really feel. Scary. It's scary to bring up tough topics. It's scary to set boundaries and like even like ask for what I want and need, because a lot of times my wants and needs get either shut down or questioned, or my feelings get invalidated. So it's been difficult. And after my last breakup, I took this like 1.5, well, maybe like 1 year hiatus off of like dating to just really focus on myself and to like do a lot more inner work and like kick off a lot of more deeper, therapy practices. So I actually found your Instagram page, Elizabeth, after following so many different psychotherapists and relationship coaches. And I think what you spoke really, really resonated with me because I have this pattern of attracting men into my life who are very emotionally unavailable, who very charming, very like, there's a chemistry there and everything, but it's almost like after I show them that I am interested in them, then things get a little bit wonky and things get uncertain. So it's always like these men who are like breadcrumbing or just like kind of like skirting and flirting with like potentially, getting romantically involved, but don't want to go all the way. And I just wanted to like break that pattern and like real understand why I was having that pattern. And I think, your page spoke a lot about masculine feminine energy. Feminine energy was like one thing that I didn't even realize I wasn't tapping into. I didn't realize I was like being very overly masculine my whole life. So a lot of that and like your stuff about rewiring your beliefs, childhood trauma, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
helped.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean, that's rough. Like you had been through a lot, I know, kind of coming into this. So, very quickly into the mastermind, I think, was it 1 or 2 months in? Um,
Yes.
you met the man who is now your official boyfriend.
Yes.
So, could you share with us, like, how did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to say that like, your program played a large role in it. And I would also say the inner work I did for myself also played a large role in it. So it's a combination of things. what I would say is really pivotal about that is that, I met him really randomly at a bar when we were like both attending a concert together. So I've kind of developed this, I think like at that stage of my self-healing journey, I've become a lot more self-aware, a lot more vulnerable and willing to share more of myself. I've dealt with some of the traumas I've had around rejection and abandonment, but not fully. But that allowed me to have the courage to actually talk to him, right? I talked to him first because I noticed that he had a cool shirt on that I really liked. And I only ever wanted to compliment the shirt, but he was somebody who was immediately, I noticed, very engaged, very like emotionally engaged, really great listener, asked me such interesting questions about myself and wanted to get to know me. And I was like, oh wow, this guy is really different, very different from like the types of guys I used to meet who like try to impress me or try to pretend that they're interested in me, but like weren't really. Like this guy actually asked like really great questions. And I think what really made the difference, especially being on your program, Elizabeth, is that first of all, like your educational materials are top notch. Obviously, like you're such a great teacher. You come from a great background of like education, and also like you've done a lot of research into like neuroscience and psychology, and your materials on like rewiring your beliefs made a huge difference for me, especially in the like critical, like early stages of my relationship with this guy, because I was getting so many great, like secure, like signals from him. Like he is great at responding. He does what he says he would. He like made plans to see me the next month because he doesn't actually live in New York City. He actually like came over and traveled to talk to me. And there was one pivotal point where like I think I texted him after the second date when he saw me in New York City again, and he took like 24 hours or so to respond to my text. And usually that doesn't happen, and usually that's like a warning sign, because all of the kind of emotionally unavailable men I dated in the past would do stuff like that, would like not respond all of a sudden and then come up with like a random excuse for why they didn't respond. So when I noticed that he took like a while to respond to my text, my normal course of action would have been to like assume that maybe he's just not an emotionally available guy. Maybe I've been reading the signs wrong, and maybe I just should disengage and protect myself. But I took a lot of time to just breathe, go through your materials, and like do your actual work on like, what are these beliefs that I have about men given this situation, and what would happen if I believed that it was a neutral situation? If it wasn't like what if I didn't believe that he was non-emotionally available? What if like he had another reason, right? So that required me to be super vulnerable and share with him like why not receiving a text for like a very long time freaked me out, because oftentimes I get like abandoned really quickly, like the types of men I dated, my childhood trauma, all that kind of stuff, right? And the way he responded to that was so incredible. Like he completely heard me and listened to me. He thanked me for explaining why I was feeling really triggered and scared by his lack of response. He told me that he was actually having a super tough couple of days. And he told me that because I was more open with him, he feels way more safe to share more of himself with me. So basically, he told me that he didn't respond to me for a while because he was in a horrible mindset and he didn't want to actually talk to me. He was feeling really crappy. And since then, that actually opened up this door to like deeper vulnerability, open communication. And that like created this like instant like trust and bond between us, where like we started like instantly like trusting each other a lot more. And that just opened the doors to deeper intimacy with us. So I have to say, like, if I didn't like go through that course and like used your materials and like did the exercises, like I don't know if I would have had the strength to be so open with him, because I've never done that before with anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a big part of what we're really working on is vulnerability and the ability to communicate in those really tough situations where we might have totally done the wrong thing, and like that's the end. That relationship isn't moving forward. And so like you kind of dug into the materials and really applied it to your situation, to your life, and like that's when the relationship took off. And I kind of remember you telling me that too on one of our calls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you say this relationship is different? You've talked about some things, but where are you at now with him? Like what's happening now? What is it like now? How long have you guys been together at this point?
So yeah, we've been official since like the end of September. So it's been like 4 months now, basically. But
Yeah.
we've been seeing each other since like the end of August. So 5 months all in, right? It's been 5 months in, and we've actually just recently moved in together. I moved in to his place
That's
while my place is
exciting.
getting renovated. Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah. And like before moving in together, we've actually been living together for quite a few weeks as well. Like I would say we
Mm.
lived together for at least 2 months, out of that 5 months. And what we would do is just travel back and forth between his city and mine. And we tested it out. So, like, okay, what makes him so amazing? He is 100% committed to the relationship. He is extremely mindful, and he cares about my needs, right? Like whenever I have any concerns, any needs, like he listens so intently and he tries to meet them as much as possible. He's not afraid to share how he feels with me, whether that's good or bad. He's not afraid to have disagreements with me, right? Like we actually like have so much trust in each other. We're like, even if one of us like had something that was uncomfortable, or maybe we felt slighted by something the other person did, or there's like a little tension in like how we live our lives, because it's always gonna be little things that pops up. Like neither of us are afraid to share how we feel, because we know that there's like the safe space between us. Like this relationship feels so much stronger and more safe and secure than any relationship I've ever been in. And also like his forthrightness. He's very like forthright about his history. He's really forthright about people in his life. Like if I was worried about like him texting other women, like I'm not even, because like he's just so like clear with me. He's like, this is so and so. She's been my friend from X, Y, and Z. Like if I ask about their history, he'll like tell me that. And so like I just have no like trust issues with him, because he doesn't try to hide anything and he has nothing to hide. And he prioritizes like the feeling of safety and comfort and trust we have in the relationship over anything else, from what I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got the whole package there in terms of the quality of the relationship, the quality of the man that you
Yeah.
have. And I know I've seen it the way he is with you. It's wonderful. Like your relationship is very strong, and it's both of you, right? And you put in the work and you've got a man who also is willing to put in the work. And that's important.
Yes. Oh, also he goes to therapy, which is huge. Like he's like very good about like if he's like feeling really triggered about something, he's good at dealing with it. And then like he doesn't try to overburden me with his stuff. Like he tries to be like, he's always saying like he's responsible for his emotions and his actions, right? Like I don't have to be responsible for taking care of him. And that's like such a relief. Like I don't have to babysit anyone. I don't feel like I'm putting in more work in the relationship. I feel like I have a very equal and mature partner. And I also like really importantly, I guess, going to like a whole femininity thing, like I feel very free to be taken care of. Like I feel like I'm totally taken care of by this man, and like before I felt like I couldn't really rely on a lot of my exes to take care of me.
Yeah.
But like I can feel him taking care of me emotionally, with like home needs, physical needs, material needs. Like he's very like, I'm happy to like let go on a lot of areas of my life, because he's really good at like taking the lead, which I love.
Yeah, yeah, you've got the guy that I want all my clients to meet. That's the goal of the program. We want to get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And like to be fair, like I felt as if like men like him are so rare, right? It feels as if it's like that. And maybe like that kind of scarcity mindset in the past could have like made me feel more compelled to settle for, you know, like 80% of the way or 70% of what I really want, right? Because it feels as if like there's not that many men of quality out there. But what's like quite interesting is that like since dating him and meeting his friends and stuff like that, it's very clear. It's like there are really good guys out there. It's just about like
we
I
have to
think I think it's
find them.
about your mentality going into it,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also create it. You could have had a different type of relationship with him if you hadn't done your part to help create it the way it is. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So you'd mentioned a couple things, but like, what would you say were the most valuable parts of the program for you in helping you get where you are now?
Yeah. I would say that the courses themselves are super, super valuable. Like to me, like having those course materials where I get to like watch your videos, you explain the theory behind it, and you have practice and you have homework behind everything and the way you break down and structure the courses. Like I feel like just the way that you've presented everything is very helpful. There's so many things that is very hard for me to learn on my own, right? Like stuff like I have such anxiety about creating an online dating profile. Thank goodness I didn't have to do it this time. But like I was like gearing up for it. And you have like an entire course on like how to do a great online profile, how to write, about yourself. Like you of course about like male psychology and how men think about things, right? Like those are the things that like obviously like sure there's like relationship books about those kinds of stuff, but you've done your research clearly and I really like the lessons that you've distilled. So I would say the course is super helpful. Our one-on-one session I think is also incredible because the one-on-one time that I have with you and also just like the process of doing more and more calls with you where you get to understand my history and what causes me to feel the way that I do. You're really good at like the technique that you've developed of identifying my emotions and describing all of it and like telling myself to like be okay with it and like give myself the time or the permission to heal it. Like your process is really great. So I would say course material is huge. Our one-on-one is amazing. And then when it comes to the weekly classes,
Mhm.
um, I do just appreciate what you also do for us there of like they're like mini one-on-ones basically,
Yeah, yes, they are.
and they're very like pointed towards like specific problems that we want to address. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the women who heard your story today and are inspired by it and interested in coaching, why would you recommend working with me?
So I would recommend working with you, Elizabeth, because you have gone through the whole gamut. Like I feel like you have had a very common journey that a lot of us women have had, right? Like you've had some traumatic experiences. You used to be anxiously attached, I believe. You had to work through that. You've gone through a string of relationships with men who were not good for you and you didn't like. And you worked yourself up and you healed yourself and built yourself up to where you are now. So first of all, like from a practical perspective, like bravo, that's really hard to do. And to develop techniques and also like have the education along the way that like, the scientific education that helps you actually teach really well and actually understand what's going on a psychological level. I just feel like you're such a great coach because you have so much knowledge, practical and also like educational. You are such a great listener. You're like, you really understand what people are going through and you're able to kind of pinpoint what is it that they're stuck with and like what the root cause of a lot of blocks that we're having are from. Very patient, very kind. um you know I feel like you make time for everyone. You actually create really detailed and well, like just very, very educational materials and just feel like I trust you too. Like you're honestly like you're somebody who I would also like want to hang out with like outside of the classroom, so I just feel like you're also a good person and you're fun, you're smart, like all these things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, there are some women who are going to be hearing this who like they're like that sounds great and like she had an amazing experience and they're kind of on the edge but they're a little afraid and they're like, what if it doesn't work for me? And this is a big investment. What was it that got you kind of off the edge and like into the program? Like what advice would you give to someone who is kind of sitting
Yeah.
on the edge?
Yeah, what I would say is that no matter what, you're going to get something out of this program, like even if it's like for like educational purposes, you're going to learn about yourself. You're going to heal yourself. You're going to learn practical tools that you can apply to your day-to-day life to actually make you a more healed, better person. You're going to learn techniques on how to attract the right partner. Even if you're not ready to have a partner, all of this stuff will come in handy in the future. And to me, it's like this is an investment that will pay over itself like 10 times, 20 times over throughout your life. No matter what, you're going to gain something really valuable from it. And as somebody who's gone through therapy, who's gone through group therapy, like classes similar to yours, Elizabeth, I've gone through like an 8-week program that's very similar to yours. Whereas instead of focusing on dating, we're focused on healing like inner trauma. And that 8-week course literally changed my life because it completely gave me the tools to actually heal my trauma. And like my self-confidence, self-worth relationship just like went like that after that class. So I understand like from a personal perspective, like how much I'm getting out of this investment. And honestly, it's just like you're teaching stuff that like is very hard for most people to even like grasp and understand and learn on their own. So it's like if there's no other place for me to learn this kind of stuff and you're the expert, then why not? Like now that I'm with my partner, I feel more confident than ever. Like even though I met him like 2 months into our program, like I do not regret it at all. Like I'm still like I'm keeping your classes, like I'm downloading and keeping your classes for all future reference.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you. Good advice for anybody who is on the edge. Well, thank you so much for being here, for being willing to come, be vulnerable again, and share your story and your experience. I know this is going to be helpful for the women who are listening. If nothing else, just to see that like it's possible and good men exist and they are out there and there is support to getting to that. So I'm so excited to hear how things progress for you guys. Like, congratulations on moving in together. That's huge. So much love to you. Definitely want to keep in touch and I want to hear updates. Let me know.
Awesome. Thank you again,
All right,
Elizabeth.
ladies, thanks for listening.